Okay, so we are live. This session is a third session in the series of that I have started the audio sessions on LinkedIn, and interestingly, we are also making video on YouTube so that you can later look at it. The interesting part is I would prefer to have it only on LinkedIn, but the thing is that LinkedIn recordings are not available. So yeah, today topic is communication in PMP. One of the most important thing in life is actually communication, and it is said Andy Crow, one of the famous author of PMP, he has written multiple famous books. And I'll tell you something true. When I was doing PMP, I actually use his book, and I used to love his book in multiple certification. And his PMI SCP book I still use for many students. And yeah, he's a kind of a good. So he said one thing, a very interesting thing, and that is 90% job of the project manager is communication. Now, the communication can be in any form, anyway, but 90% job of the project manager is communication. When we talk about 90% job is communication, it really comes down to this thing, how do you define what communication is? What are the plan for that? What are the 4 R of communication? Right information at right time to right people to have right impact. I basically classify communication into these 4 R's. What are the right informations? Like what do I want to communicate to anyone? Okay, like which is the impact? How much more information? Shall the information should be concise? Shall the information should be limited? How I'm going to give that information? So right information, okay, at right time. Now in this digital world, timing is of extreme importance. Some information at wrong time or even late is not useful. I'll give you an example. Right now I'm a big fan of cricket. So right now the World Cup is going on, so in any kind of sports we want to know who is winning, who is losing. So that is the right time to look into that. If something is later on, the use, there is no use actually. There is no use whatsoever for that information. Okay, it's okay, but I'm not gonna pay somebody for that information, right? So right time and right information. Okay. Now a very important thing is right people. Right people, like who need that information? I'm reading this book by Henry. Like this book is kind of a how the Ford was taken by Alan Mulally into a different dynamics, how the entire dynamics of the Ford company was changed after recession of 2008. So he used a way of communication. In that specific way of communication, how he used to do that, he used to have a meeting in which all the senior management used to come, and he used to communicate them into that way. So right information at right time to right people. Now the 4 R of communication, right impact. One of the most important thing to look into the when we are communicating, how I'm going to put maximum impact on the people. Right information at right time to right people to have right impact. If my communication is not putting any impact, then that would not be important. So in the language of PMI, we make a communication management plan. The communication management plan will consist of these 4 R. In addition to that, it will also define who need the information, like persons who need the information, when they need the information, how the information will be communicated, what is the confidential level of that confirm communication, how which method those communication will pass, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step by step, how those communication is passing through different medium, we will look into that. Okay, so all these things goes into your plan. That plan is called as communication management plan. Acha, one of the interesting part about this communication management plan is that now it also talked about that your how like we are going to communicate. Are we going to have a push communication? Are we going to have a pull communication? Are we going to have an interactive communication? Normally, most of the communication in the project, people consider it has to be interactive. No, 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 that's kind of not possible. Yes, we want to have an interactive communication, but that is not humanly possible. So all form of communication uh, are combined into this thing. It consists of a push pull interactive combination of all form of communications are actually used into it, and we actually customize the information into that patent way, and we see what is the best form of communication, and we will look into that patent way. So communication is the heart and soul of PMP, is the major job of the project manager, and we need to look into that how basically we are gonna communicate into that way, right? So that is the major cornerstone of the communication: right information at right time to right people to have right impact. Is it clear to you? If yes, please put in the chat box, or kind of give some smiley. We cannot put some chat box here, like there are reactions. Okay, thank you, Ibrahim. Please put the reaction so that I would understand that this thing is clear to you. Okay, so putting that into the context, we look into that how we want to work into that way, how we will move and look into other ways and moving forward towards that way. Acha, so we have all time of communication, we look into that how the communication is being communicated. We make a communication management plan here. The plan is made here. Now we have made a communication management plan. It talks about the level of confidentiality of the communication, which technology you are going to use. I love to use the example like in UAE, if you try to call me on WhatsApp, you just cannot call, because the communication tool or technology, which is of course dependent on EF, that is not allowed here, right? That communication technology is not allowed here. So we look into that which technology is allowed here, and we put into that the communication model, which means how the sender is sending the information, how the receiver is interpreting that patent information. So if you look into that, I'm a sender here. Now I think in picture. You see, now this is another important thing that we need to look into, that how other person think about it. When I am sending something, I have a kind of, I think in the terms of picture. Okay, so when I am saying the pictures are popping uh, under my head. Now I don't know what about you. Maybe you are basically coming as in a different way. Okay, you may be coming into the different way. You may be looking into the different point of view. Okay, okay, sorry, I'm back. So you may be looking at a different point of way. How you want to perceive that communication is a very important way. How do you think about the communication? What are the ways you look into that? Okay, let's move forward. We have made a communication management plan. The communication management plan is done. We have made the communication plan. Now it goes for approval from sponsor. Sponsor have to approve, like all plans, sponsor will be approving this patent plan. Once the sponsor have approved this plan, now your plan is ready for action. One more thing, at any time you want to change anything in the plan, you have to go through a change request, and monitoring and control we look into that. Acha, I want you to visualize this thing, that the managed communication process is considered as a post office of the project management. What do I mean? What do I mean by post office? Okay, the post office communication means that everything that will be communicated in the project will be communicated from this process. Okay, everything that will be communicated in the project will be communicated through this part, through managed communication. So I like to say that work performance data is generated, okay, and work performance report is shared here. Both things are there, and then those report, how much report is needed, that is communicated through managed communication. Any communication that happens in your project happens through managed communication. So kind of a very critical for your project. Right information, right time to right people to have a right impact. So we discussed last time stakeholder topic. And the stakeholder topic I discussed about that whenever a new stakeholder is identified, you put it into the stakeholder register, you categorize him, and then you prioritize the stakeholder, okay, with the power and trust matrix. And then if you need a change request, you raise a change request to update the stakeholder engagement plan, and then stakeholder engagement matrix is a part of that plan. Once the stakeholder plan is updated, the next step is to update the communication plan. The same plan that you use to update the stakeholder plan is enough to update the communication plan. You don't need any kind of change request to update the plan. A very important thing in the project is to develop active listening among the team members, active listening in the people to understand how they can learn, how they can basically understand and work into that way. Okay, so that's an important thing that we need to develop into the communication. G, so far it is clear to everybody. So that's the entire communication topic for you, kind of a summary of a communication topic for you. If you have any question, please feel free to raise your hand, and I will be more than happy to answer any of your question. To all those people who are watching on YouTube, these sessions are basically done conducted at LinkedIn audio sessions, and I am also doing it on YouTube. So if you have any question at YouTube, you can put in the comments here. If anybody has any question, feel free to raise your hand. To my students who are joining, remember we are going to have a coaching call after like 8 p.m. UA time. So be there at, and we will continue ATP question, authorized training provider instructor question. So now that's another type of communication. What I just did, I use this to communicate in a two-way. First, I communicate to my student, remind them that we will have a coaching call. Secondly, for those who are not my students, I communicated with them that we have coaching calls, and that is a form of communication. And interestingly, we are going to have the batch program starting this Friday. If you want to do PMP, feel free to join it. Now the house is open for any question answers that you may have. If you don't have any questions, then I will be ending the session. Ji, feel free if you have any question in any way. Acha ji, what are the communication but best communication way in any project? Acha, now thank you for asking this question. uh, you see, one of the most important thing when you understand the communication way, we need to look into their communication requirement of the stakeholder. Some stakeholders prefer face-to-face communication, whereas some I know stakeholders prefer to read something. Some people prefer to talk. So everything works. You see, YouTube has a video conference, but podcast also works. Right now, more people are at LinkedIn listening to this session as compared to people watching the session at YouTube. So we need to understand the requirement of each person, each stakeholder, and tailor the communication process accordingly. What is work performance data, report, and information? So Zahir, if we talk about the communication level, the refinement of the communication, work performance data is the raw information. Okay, it's the raw information that we get into the project. It is not refined. We You immediately get it from the project information. Every department will concise it and generate their report. That's a work performance information. Like we have a one work performance information report for scope, schedule, cost, risk, quality, and then report will be a concise report of all the things. Okay, so I would say data is a raw and information is a little bit better. Report the concise way. Thank you. Ji, if anybody has any other question, feel free to ask. Yes, my friend. Raman, tell me. uh, Burn up chart, burn down chart, task board, Kanban board, all of them are basically information radiator, right? You see, you have a pen and paper in front of you. Okay, can you draw something on it? No, no, don't draw. I'm just asking you, can you draw on it? Right? that is dynamic and low tech. If that basically we prefer in agile, dynamic that you can easily do, and low tech, right? That is dynamic and low tech information. By the way, what is your update? I did not disturb you yesterday because of Diwali. What is your update? Okay. How many people mocks done? Okay, so please do join the coaching call. We will have in 40 minutes, and then continue the people mock. Okay, sister? Thank you. Okay. G, anyone else has any question? Feel free to ask. Okay. So one of the most important thing that I also discussed about the PMP exam, PMP exam consists of four domains predominantly. Like 80% of the exam comes from those four areas: stakeholder communication, team, agile. Stakeholder communication, team, agile, and we covered stakeholder, we covered communication. I'll see, my throat is also hurting, and I have a session on Friday. I want to save my voice, so probably on Tuesday I'll see if we can have a session on agile. Do comment it on the where you see this link. When do you want to have that session? uh, Tuesday or maybe Thursday, or even can Wednesday can also be okay. Put it in there, and I would highly appreciate if you can share this thing so that it can get more and more people. I want to reach more people, and so that more people can learn from this free data. And guys, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel, go there. I will put in the link. I daily put at least one video there which has multiple things for you at a different dynamics. With that, I don't see any question, so I will be ending the session. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you learned something, and if you do, feel free to put comment into it. I always interact with your comments. I want to know. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Sat Sri Akal. Good morning. Good evening. Wherever you are. Bye bye.